he's free, with President Trump having commuted that sentence Friday. Stone tells Fox's Sean Hannity.
I knew he would take some shots for this, but I think most people, most fair-minded people, understand. He saved my life, and, at least on paper, he gave me a chance to fight for vindication.
Congressional investigators are planning to look into the president letting Stone off the hook. There's a Republican Senate primary runoff election today in Alabama.
The candidate President Trump wants to win the Alabama Senate runoff is not his former Attorney General Jeff Sessions. President Trump is supporting former Auburn football coach Tommy Tuberville. Sessions held that Senate seat for 20 years before leaving to become President Trump's first Attorney General.
Fox's Mike Emanuel. America's listening to Fox News.
There's never been a more critical time. Fox News Media is bringing America together. America is watching news and fearless debate on Fox News Channel. We're invested in you from Wall Street to Main Street to your street with Fox Business. America is listening wherever you are, on radio and podcasts, trending the stories you need anytime you want online. And Fox Nation, streaming the entertainment that celebrates America. Fox News Media, America's news, and much more. From the Fox News Podcasts Network. Download Perino and Steyerwalt. I'll tell you what.
I noticed that the Democrats were very critical of the government. And fine, okay, whatever. But their solutions were more government. But government is not working at all. And look, I understand that the state unemployment systems got overwhelmed, but 36 million people who have filed for unemployment, 16 million of them have yet to see a dime.
Amazing. Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com. America's listening to Fox News.
Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings restaurant in Jessup is now open for business, practicing social distancing, but still serving that great food that Damon's is famous for. Come inside or come through the drive-thru, but Damon's is open inside and welcomes back its customers. The menu's the same, the service is fast, and the food is fantastic, and the sauces remain the same, mild, wild, insane, or inferno. The number is the same, 588-WING, 588-9464. Damon's Restaurant on West Cherry Street in Jessup. Dining room now open for business. Come on in and enjoy a great meal today.
A bank that puts people first. First Southern Bank, investing in you since 1907. Serving Jessup, Patterson, and Waycross. A true community bank led by experienced neighborhood bankers that live and work in our community. Offering competitive loan options for commercial and consumer clients. Stop by the Jessup branch and meet branch manager Mandy Yeomans and her fantastic team. Call 912-810-1540. Let First Southern Bank be your bank of choice. First Southern Bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Since 1946, Murphy's Builder Supply has been serving the folks of Jessup, Wayne, and surrounding counties with quality products and knowledgeable service. Matter of fact, they feel they sell service first to make sure you get exactly what you need for your home improvement projects. And with each employee at Murphy's being there for 10 years or more, you know you're talking with someone with the experience to help you with building supplies, tools, paint, and all the things you need from a full-service hardware store. The best choice in home improvement is Murphy's Builder Supply, 156 Northeast Broad Street, Jessup.
8:02 here at the Big Dog WIFO World Famous Butch and Bob Show, brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply, First Southern Bank, and Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings. Bob, good morning on this Tuesday. Too hot.
Too hot, but I do want to get announcements. Somebody sent us in late. Grace Assembly God's having a potato giveaway today beginning at 9 a.m. There are 50 bags of potatoes. So, again, that's taking place today at Grace Assembly of God beginning at 9 a.m. this morning. So if you'd like a bag of potatoes, again, those are being given away today at 9 a.m. this morning at the Grace Assembly of God here in Jessup. In the studios with us is CEO of the Wayne Memorial Hospital, Joe Arati. Joe, always good to see you. And the numbers continue to rise here in Wayne County. Again, we mentioned it yesterday. The latest numbers from the Georgia Department of Public Health is 172 as of 7 p.m. last night, but that's cumulative all the way from going all the way back to March. So the question I asked yesterday, maybe you got the answer. How many are current today in Wayne County? At the 172,
well, if
you had to guess, how many, or do we have to guess? Do we know? Is there anybody who can give us that number?
Well, first of all, I think you bring up a very good point that the 172 cases is cumulative over a 4 and almost half-month period. And there's 30,000 people that live in Wayne County. So that, while here recently we've seen a number of cases, let's put it in perspective that, with 30,000 people in the county for 175 roughly folks to be infected with something over 4 months, we've done a pretty good job. Here recently we've seen a pretty good spike, as have most of the Southeast and most of the country. I can't quantify exactly how many are active, but if I had to guess, watching the numbers every day and seeing that it's usually 14 days when it's out of your system, I would say probably 1/3 of those are probably active right now. So I guess that's about 50 cases, 153 cases that are active right now. So if 50 folks are active right now out of 30,000, again, I think all in all we've done pretty well. When you look at other counties, not only in Georgia but in our area, we're still definitely in the lower quadrant. But we've got to be vigilant. We've got to be vigilant just like we were in the very beginning of this virus. At the very beginning of the virus, the folks in the community did an excellent job of wearing a mask and socially distancing and doing the things that needed to be done to help slow the spread. And I'm guilty of it just like everybody else, and you and I have talked about it, Bob. After so long and the cases started going down, we said, man, we're tired of this. And you know, I have to remind myself sometimes to grab my mask when I go to certain places to do some errands or something to put that on. You know, it's I think we not only got a little bit complacent, I think we just got a little frustrated, and I think that's just emblematic of people. You know, going forward, you know, the question comes up, well, you know, I get it all the time, well, Joe, but, you know, what can we do? What can we do? And the easiest thing we could do is and we've talked about this before, if you don't feel good, stay home. I can't tell you how many times that we've had maybe an outing of 4 or 5 people may have gotten something at an outing and come to find out that person wasn't feeling well, but they went to whatever that outing was anyway. So if you don't feel good, please stay home. If you've taken a test because you think you may have it or you've been exposed, well, distance yourself from people and stay home and don't go out until you get that test result back. If there was a reason for you to get tested, which I'm sure there was, if someone goes to get tested, they think they've been exposed or they think they have symptoms. Well, while you're waiting for that result, don't go to a wedding. Don't go to a large gathering of folks, no matter how much fun or how you'd want to do that, because it's kind of counterproductive. I went and took a test because I think I have it, but then I'm going to go to a large gathering and potentially infect folks. The other thing we need to do is wear a mask. If we go into a place with a large group of people, we need to wear a mask. It's aggravating, like I said, and no one gets aggravated and forgets more than me sometimes. But we got to wear a mask when we go to large places, and hopefully, as time goes on, it'll go back, you know, to how it was in the beginning with a minimal amount of cases, and hopefully we can wash this virus through.
You know, the governor made a good point. It's real aggravating this hot weather.
It's awful.
I mean, it's 100-some degrees and people. But I'm just curious. The numbers continue to go up here in Wayne County. So how's that affected the hospital?
It has. We've done a lot more testing, and we've got more cases than we've had. It's hectic at the hospital right now. You know, someone said they heard we had 0 beds left at the hospital. That's not correct. You know, the typical, like we talked about before, please don't get your news from Facebook. But you know, we're hectic right now, but when cases go up in the middle of a pandemic, you would expect all healthcare providers to be hectic. And it's hectic and busy. It's manageable. But we've seen an increase in the amount of folks that are testing and the amount of folks that are getting sick from this. According to the DPH website, we haven't had anybody, wonderful, knock on wood, pass away from this virus, which has been excellent. So I think a lot of the protocols and things to take care of people, the more every day we learn more about the virus, and we're taking better care of folks, and there's a lot of medications now that have been proven to help with the virus. So you know, it's gotten busier here. Is this, I get asked all the time, is this the second wave that they were talking about? Potentially. I've read a pile of different things on studies and talked to epidemiologists who one was on a conference call about 2 weeks ago, and she thought that it was very possible that coronaviruses, like most viruses, but especially coronaviruses, they come on real quick, they tend to mutate, and then they tend to wash away. She believes that potentially that this virus has maybe mutated into a more contagious, less severe form, and that's why you've seen unbelievable amounts of cases going up, but the hospitalizations have not gone up at the same percentage. Now, hospitalizations are up, but when your cases go up 50% and your hospitalizations go up 25%, well, that doesn't coalesce with what the numbers are.
So what number should we look at that concerns us? Is the number of deaths, number of hospitalizations, number of cases? I mean, the governor made a point yesterday. He said that, the deaths continue to go down.
Yes.
In fact, I saw a doctor from Tampa, Florida's a hot spot, on CNN the other day, and he was saying that the number that you should be looking at is the number of deaths, and he said that it continues to decrease in the state of Florida.
That's correct. That's correct. In Georgia, too.
Despite the fact the numbers are going up as far as positive cases, the number of deaths continue to decrease, which he says is a good sign. So, and that what's amazing about this virus, it affects so many different people in so many different ways.
That's correct.
I mean, some people it really affects. Some people, they say it's kind of like a common cold, that they don't really have that many symptoms. So what are you seeing at the hospital as far as symptoms go?
Sure. Well, here's let me go back to what you said, because you're exactly right. Let's just take the state of Georgia. The death rate in the state of Georgia had run about 3.5% early. And through that, it's fluctuated between 3 and 3.5. The death rate now has fallen under 2.5%. So it goes to exactly what you were saying. Also, when you look at the population of the state of Georgia, 120,000 people have gotten the coronavirus, and that's a lot. 11 million people live in the state of Georgia. So I did a little math last night, and that's 0.8% of 1% of the population in the state of Georgia has gotten this. So we need to look at all those numbers, and when you look at the numbers as a country, 3 million people have gotten this. Well, there's 350 million people living in our country. So I'm sorry, that was wrong. It was 0.8% of the country have gotten this. I think it's 1% actually of Georgians. So so when you look at all of these things and look at this, you have to put those numbers in perspective and see what we can do to limit the spread. We've seen all different types of symptoms. We've seen the classic symptoms of somebody who has a fever and who's having problems, maybe breathing. But we've had folks come in with a fever and who've had problems breathing, and they've taken a coronavirus test and they're negative. They had a sinus infection. So it's really hard for healthcare providers to be able to nail down what is an actual cause. Fever is always a sign that there's something going on. One of the things that most think is a pretty good telltale sign is a loss of taste. That if you lose your sense of taste, that maybe that's a pretty good precursor that maybe you have the virus. But a gentleman from the CDC believes that there may be up to 25 million people in this country that have gotten the coronavirus and don't even know they have it. Didn't even know they had it. Because like you said, they have no symptoms. And the younger population, especially those under the age of 18, they have very minimum to no symptoms.
Another question I want to ask about the numbers, and maybe you can clarify this because somebody brought this up to me yesterday, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but they say you go get tested and you test positive. So that's a case. And then you go back to get another test and they test positive again. Can some of these numbers be the same people, or is it is it different?
I don't know of anyone.
Somebody said that they counted the same twice. So
I don't know about that. I don't know of anybody who tested positive.
The numbers aren't doubled.
I don't think so, Bob.
Okay. Somebody asked me that question today. I said I don't see how
that could be. There's an initial test, and then there's when you get retested. Okay. And I think there's a pretty good delineation, though. Sometimes folks may get retested after so many days to make sure the virus is out of their body,
and
that would be considered a retest.
Say they get retested and they test positive again.
No.
Will they do?
Because it's not an initial positive; it's a retest. Okay. So I wouldn't. I can't say for sure that's that way, but I do know there's an initial test and a retest.
Okay.
I have a question about herd immunity. What is that, and what does that mean?
You know, a lot of your Scandinavian countries went with the herd immunity and didn't shut everything down, and they just figured a bunch of people would get it, and it would kind of wash its way through, and then once everybody got it, then they would either not get it again, or a lot of times when you get something like a virus, once you get it the second time, it's usually a lot less severe than when you got it the first time. That's basically herd immunity in a nutshell. There's a lot of ideas of whether or not that works or not. This thing is all over the board. You'll have epidemiologists that will say herd immunity is the way to go, and let's get it and wash it through the system. Or you have others that think we need to shelter in place. It's kind of like I was talking to a friend of mine who's a big Clemson fan, and remember they had like 35 players test positive about 2 weeks ago. And he was like, I was like, oh man, you got 35 of your players. He said, but guess what? He said, in about 3 weeks from now, when they're really getting rolling to get ready to prepare for their first game, he said, if 3/4 of the team have already had it, then they have nothing to worry about. That's kind of the theory behind herd immunity, okay? I have to put it in a sports perspective. That's really one of the few things I know about. And plus, I got my buddy right here to my left, so he can understand if I put it in that perspective.
Speaking of sports, I listen to AM 1370 in the morning time coming into work, and Clay Travis he's the most optimistic person as far as this coronavirus. I mean, but he's getting bashed every day because he keeps giving the positive spin. He keeps saying, "Look at this, look at that."
Sure,
he thinks we're improving, but. If you watch the national news every night, it's gloom and doom, and we're all just. But we've said from day one, going all the way back to March, what's the frustrating part of it is every time you turn around and watch a different doctor, or you get a different perspective, you get a different view. There's been no consistency across the board, except for the only thing that's been consistent has been. Wash your hands, social distance. That's about the only thing that's been consistent. Even the object of the mask has become a debate, because I saw a doctor the other day say a healthy person doesn't need to wear a mask because you're breathing stuff that you don't need to. So Bob, I don't even know where that stands. Where do you stand? I keep hearing to wear a mask, but other people say not to wear a mask.
Unfortunately, this has been politicized on all ends. Okay. It's been politicized,
and it's sad that the pandemic.
It's been politicized. But okay,
that's what a lot of. It surprised me. You can talk to people, and this is what they tell me, and they believe this, whether it's true or not. They said once the election's over in November, it'll all go away. I mean, there's people that actually believe that's how political they think it's become.
It's been politicized on what you should do.
Once the election's over in November, this will all fade away, and we'll never hear about pandemic coronavirus again.
What you shouldn't do, do masks. I mean, there's no way a mask cannot help. Okay, there's no way it cannot help. So, that's where we get. That's where I think we go a little bit off the rails. We want to be able to say, if you do this, you're definitely not. This is definitely not going to happen. Well, there's not a lot of things in life that are that absolute and concrete. If you wear a mask and you socially distance, yes, your chances of getting the coronavirus decrease dramatically. But that doesn't mean you're not going to get it.
Stanley Todd asked the interesting question to the governor yesterday about about singing in church. He said, they said that when you sing it spreads it more.
Okay, I mean, sure, true, but let's we all have to be responsible in how we go about our lives in general. We need to be responsible in how we deal with this. But in the end, individuals have to make a choice. It's like going to school, about whether or not kids should go back to school. Well, I mean,
and all across the country, you see different. I talked to my sister yesterday. In Virginia, they've already made the decision that they're giving kids a choice. You can either stay home and virtual learn the whole year, or you can come to school. But if you do come to school, they're only letting them come to school twice a week. And my sister's going,
it's a tough,
and you see different
balance.
Schools doing different things.
They're doing different things, but if if you're a parent and you're uncomfortable with your child going to school, I respect that 100%. You always have the option to homeschool, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, it's the same thing we said about restaurants. It's still a personal choice. If you don't feel comfortable going into a restaurant, then go through the drive-through. But if you feel comfortable and it's made available, then the governor made a good point yesterday. He said you just can't shut the economy down. He said there's too much at stake. He said he talks to business leaders all across. He said he talked to hospital CEOs that said the hospitals have to stay open. They can't shut down.
It's not only that we have to stay open. It's also when you don't do elective cases. Let's take the business aspect from the hospital away. You shut down anyone's business part of it. It's going to affect that business. But let's put that to the side for a moment. How many folks didn't get a procedure or something that they may have thought was routine or was screening, and then something came up, and that's 30 and 45 days that treatment is delayed for something very, very bad or something that was benign that could be bad. So that's the other piece of this is the health and welfare, but it all goes back to, we've got to be responsible in not only the choices of whether or not we go sit in a restaurant, but if we don't feel good, stay home. Think how many times that we've heard. I mean, most of the cases I hear around here come in clusters of 3 or 4 people who were at a party, who were at a gathering, and somebody was there that had it. Yes, sometimes that person didn't know, but more oftentimes than not, they were waiting on a test result, or they knew they didn't feel well and they went. If we would just do those 2 things, I think we would see a dramatic decrease in a lot of not only COVID-19, but I think in a lot of viruses and community-acquired illness.
What is the cure? When somebody does COVID-19, what have you seen? What's been the treatment? Is it just basically cold medicine, or just stay at home for 14 days?
A lot of folks,
course, or what? How is it been treated?
Most folks, 95+%, 2 or 3 days, they let it kind of run its course. A lot of people, Bob, I've talked to of all different ages have stayed home and never have a symptom. I know one.
They just don't feel good.
No, they feel fine. I know one gentleman who I talked to who's in his low 60s. He told me that his daughter had it. Was visiting them for a few days, and she wound up getting testing positive. So he went. Only reason why he got tested was because she was at the house for a couple of days. It was during Father's Day, and he went and he took a test just to take it, even though he felt fine, and because he was exposed, and tested positive. Never had a symptom. Waited time, it got out of his system, and he was good to go. Never had a symptom. And then there's other folks that are violently ill for 2 or 3 days. It just affects everybody differently.
Another question is, people ask about testing. Where can people get tested? We've been
the first thing they need to
the public service announcement for Long County. They've got 2 a days twice a week over there, Tuesdays and Thursdays. How about Wayne County? If somebody doesn't feel good, they feel they may have symptoms, where do they go get the test?
You can always go to the health department. Health department can direct them, but the first place I would refer them is to their primary care physician. Call your primary care physician, tell them what's going on, and they'll be able to direct you to where you need to go, what you need to do, and that's the good starting point. I know that Southern Family Medicine here in town is seeing patients, and they'll do a coronavirus test for you. But I would definitely call my primary care physician first. Talk it through with your doctor, just like you would. It's no different if you woke up one morning and you didn't feel well, you would call your doctor and they would advise you.
And how soon does the test result come back? I mean, I've heard so many different.
It's run the gamut, Bob.
It was several weeks to 2 days to 15 minutes.
What's happening now in the send-out test right now, they were running about 48 hours, but with all the testing, it's going to be 4 days, a good 4 days, maybe 5.
And you're saying person that gets tested during that 4-day period, they need to stay home. Don't go anywhere during that period of time.
No, and definitely if you have to be around someone or have to go do something, absolutely wear a mask. But if you can, just stay home until you get your test result back. If you didn't think there was nothing wrong with you, then you wouldn't have never have gotten a test. Okay, so if we can just do those things, if we get tested, stay home till you get your result, that helps slow the spread right there. Well,
it's going to be interesting. Like I said, Major League Baseball is starting up late July, NBA, but they're all, doing it differently. So, the question still remains: collegiate football. They're going to make a decision. They state late July. They're going to wait a couple of weeks and see where the numbers are. But again, listening to people like Feinbaum and Herb Street and all them that follow on a daily basis, they don't see it happening. So I'm hoping they're wrong because they said the economic impact of college football not taking place is going to be unbelievable. You're going to see other sport programs just fall by the wayside because that's the economic engine. And it's just like everywhere. I mean, without football, those other sports don't survive. So it'll be tragic for a lot of, you see it already, a lot of colleges that are, Stanford was a good example. They did away with like 7 collegiate programs yesterday. Yeah. They just don't have the finances now, so they just did away with them.
Take the University of Georgia, okay? University of Georgia's football program, we know how much money that brings in. And so you take that money out of that system. Now, remember now, governor's doing a 10% budget cut. So now you look at your state universities. So let's take the University of Georgia just because, okay, that's us. So that school is taking a 10% cut in general from what they get from the state legislature, okay? Now you're going to take another $250 million out of the budget from the football program? No way.
And not just the universities, but those towns that all those colleges are in.
It's a trickle-down effect.
Like Clemson, South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, Athens, Georgia. I mean, think of the economic impact of those communities on a Saturday afternoon, the money generated by all those people rolling into that town for that Saturday.
Here's what I think is going to happen. Here's what I think. You can tell they want to do college football season because everybody's holding off. I think what you're going to see is everyone's going to go to a conference-only season, and they're not going to start till maybe October 1 or late September. That'll buy them another month to see what this thing does, and then you can play your 8 games. You play them from the end of September through Thanksgiving. You play your conference championship, so that buys them another month. So I think what you may see is everybody go to that, which would be 8 to 10 games, and just you start late September, first of all, however the calendar works, and run it through that way. Because that's what's going to be very interesting. How many conference games? If you take conferences that have different amount. Like I can think of Alex's school up at TCU, the Big 12 with only 10 teams, which I think is funny. Big 12 with 10 teams. That's only 9 conference games. Right. Whereas the Big 10 said they're going to play 10 games. Right. Well, how does that work out with the football playoff system? They always talk about Notre Dame not having that extra conference championship game to put into their resume. Well, how does that work? It's not their fault. They're only playing 9 games.
All right.
So there's going to have to be some uniformity to it.
There's no conference for Notre Dame. They're independent, right? So what are they doing?
Correct. I think, Jonathan, they're going to have to go play in the ACC.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
I'm like you. If they go to conference schedules, Notre Dame's going to have to opt to go to a conference to get a schedule at all because they don't.
Well, it's funny about how there's no travel. So, and again, I look at the schedule. So TCU plays at West Virginia. That's not exactly a bus ride.
All right.
That's a conference game. Okay, that's not exactly a bus ride.
Or the same thing in SEC. Even the conference schedule that they're talking about, the travel between, say, Texas A&M to Florida or Texas A&M to Athens.
How about Texas A&M to South Carolina?
Right. I mean, that's a long trip. So, again, we appreciate you coming in. Like I said, I'm just curious. Like I said, the numbers the last couple of weeks have spiked. I just was curious if you knew why. I thought the governor made a good point. The governor said, I liked his comments yesterday that the national media continues to bash him, saying Georgia opened up too early. He said it was a 14-day period. He said they opened up way earlier and he said if you would have saw a wave,
Bob, we saw a wave in the middle of May, not
that's what he said.
June.
Right, he said they didn't see anything.
No.
He really thinks I thought he made a good point. He said once the protest started all across the country,
think that's a factor.
People got frustrated to seeing all those people out on the streets. They said, why can't I go out on the streets? And then everybody just got out. Then the July 4th weekend came, and everybody was out having a good time, and that's why I think you see the numbers continue to increase.
I think there's a lot of factors. I think a lot of it, too, is how many folks, and I'm sure there's folks that are listening that didn't feel well and still went and then found out they had it, and there's no telling how many people they affected.
Well, we got the school officials coming in tomorrow. See, that's the concern, too. They talked about that at the school board meeting, that, so many families, their kids wake up, they don't feel good, but they still encourage them to go to school.
Correct.
So that's going to be a problem this upcoming school year because, like I said, if you don't feel good, the main thing is, but a lot of people do that. I mean, I do that.
Yeah, I mean,
Jonathan does that.
Listen,
when you come to work because you feel like you got to come to work.
How much of it was when you were a kid? You took the thermometer and put it under the light so the temperature would read high, so you wouldn't see that. You wouldn't go to school.
No,
we all did that.
Didn't do that.
Come on, we all did that. I mean, so we have to be able to sift through that, but. I just think.
Okay, Ferris Bueller.
I just think it works.
I just lick the palms.
I just think if I could say, if I may, one more time before we leave, for those that are listening, if you don't feel good, stay home. If you're waiting on a test come back, isolate yourself till you get that test result. Wear a mask, if need be, socially distance. Do the things that we did in Wayne County at the very beginning. Wayne County was extremely low because that just didn't happen by accident. That's because we did those things. And we're still low. Don't misunderstand me. We're still very, very low when you look at the amount of cases per our population. But let's do our part to help to stop the spread, and I think it'll all work out.
And knock on wood, still no one has died in Wayne County. Only one death in Long County. 3,000 deaths now in the state of Georgia, which is a high number. But like I said, we've been fortunate in that regard as well. So, yes. Again, just hopefully this trend will stop. It'll move in the right direction. Hopefully we'll see a good school year, college football, all those things we're hoping for. I know Jonathan's excited about the Braves cranking up late July, so see how that goes. More and more players are opting out, though. That's what scares you. So,
well, it's
Jonathan may have to pinch hit since Nick Markakis has stepped out.
I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to this. We've talked about this. I mean, it's personal choice. I mean, if someone doesn't want to play, that's their choice. I respect it.
Well, they're giving up their salary too. So.
That's right. I respect it.
Joe, always good to see you. I said I was going to see you yesterday at the governor. I said we're going to run the governor's Hulk. He talked about 16 minutes. We're going to run that Friday.
That's good.
Again, tomorrow we've got School Superintendent Jay Brinson, High School Principal Brett McDaniel, School Board Chairman Nick Ellis in studio. They're going to talk about graduation this Saturday, also the upcoming school year set to get underway in August. And then on Thursday, we got candidate for Sheriff Chuck Mosley in, have John Carter in the following Monday, which early voting gets underway Monday for the 3-week period up to August 11th. So, again, time to get out and vote. And like I said, this hot weather. One thing, you talk about different theories and all that. When we first, before the hot weather came, they said the hot weather would stop this. Apparently, that's not the case.
You wouldn't think so. But again, how many of these were gatherings, or how much of this spread is folks being gatherings in close proximities that are maybe inside, or we just don't know. We just don't know. What we do know is if we don't feel good, stay home, and if we're waiting for a test to come back, stay home. That's what we do know.
I'm going to, again, get my fingers crossed for college football. That's what I'm hoping for. But anyway, good to see you, Joe. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, gentlemen.
That's going to do it for today's World Famous Butch and Bob Show. Everybody have a great day.
World Famous Butch and Bob Show on WIFO, brought to you by Murphy Builder Supply, First Southern Bank, and Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings. Good morning from the Big Dog at 8:32.
Murphy's Builder Supply is where you need to go for all your home improvement projects and hardware needs. They've been serving folks in this area since 1946. Murphy's offers some products and services that you may not know about. They now sell ammunition, both bullets and shells. Murphy's also sells personalized tags for dog collars. They build customized screens for windows and doors. Murphy's can rekey locks, and of course they can make keys. They cut glass for windows, plus Murphy's has monthly doorbuster specials. Check their Facebook page to see what's on sale. Murphy's Builder Supply, 156 Northeast Broad Street, Jessup. A bank that puts people first. First Southern Bank, investing in you since 1907. Serving Jessup, Patterson, and Waycross. A true community bank led by experienced neighborhood bankers that live and work in our community. offering competitive loan options for commercial and consumer clients. Stop by the Jessup branch and meet branch manager Mandy Yeomans and her fantastic team. Call 912-810-1540. Let First Southern Bank